Hey, everybody, guess what? It is Wednesday. That means it is time for the Witches Movie Coven. Grab a wand, grab your goat if you got one, and join us as we talk about The Color of Space. Indeed, a very special movie tonight. You know what makes it extra special is that we actually have the screenwriter of this fabulous film here talking is my strong suit, Miss Scarlett Amaris. So let me introduce her to you. Scarlett, welcome. She is a dear friend of mine, a fellow witch. She is a neighbor, sometimes workout buddy, and an amazing, amazing writer and screenwriter. So welcome, Scarlett.
Thank you guys so much for having me here. It's really, really such an honor and such a pleasure.
Yes, it will be fun. And of course, let me introduce my cohorts. We have the beautiful blonde-locked Jason Mankey right here.
I'm going to be verklempt all night because Scarlett's with us. Because I've never hung out with a screenwriter before, and I'm already blushing a little bit. So I'm super excited and worried I'm going to say really dumber than usual things tonight. So there's that.
Good. That will make for a good show. And of course, Richard-Lael Lillard.
Hello. Yes, that would be me. Richard-Lael is one name, not two. If I were just Richard, I would be a. I am known as a gentleman psychic. I am a psychic and a medium. I used to be a psychic and a small, but I gained some weight. So we don't talk too much about that.
Thank you so much.
Anyway,
now, unfortunately, Heather is a little under the weather. She was just at Mystic South and she might have caught a bug or something. So she is not going to be able to join us. And Courtney, we're not sure of. She might have been taken by a big magenta light, but she was supposed to be here lying in bed with an injured knee, but we haven't found her yet. So hopefully we'll find her, hopefully not in the well. Oh, wait, foreshadowing. Now we do not well, just in case, hopefully all you guys out there, hi everybody, leave comment in our chat room. We love that you're lovely. Yeah, we all love Lael. And again, we are thrilled to have you. So just in case anybody out there has not seen The Color Out of Space, Richard-Lael, do you have a unbiased synopsis of the film?
I do have. You might notice this dramatic lighting effect. It's modern technology. It's Color Out of Space. This is a brilliant film it's an adaptation of an H.P. Lovecraft novella. It's a little short story that was originally 1927. In the original story, it took place 50 years before in the 1880s. This story differs in the fact that it takes place currently now, and it does not have this sort of someone trying to figure out 50 years after the fact. So the story surrounds a family who has moved to a small, out-of-the-way farm in the middle of nowhere. And they have 3 children. In the original story, it was 3 boys. In this one, it is 2 boys and a girl. The girl, of course, is a witch. She's a Wiccan, and she goes out to do rituals to make certain that she can be taken away from this place where she meets the romantic lead. The person who, in the original story, is a mix of a couple of characters, but he is the surveyor, and he is trying to figure out the water table. She sort of blows him off a little bit, and he sort of is enamored by the fact that she is a witch, and he has to go back and communicate with the family as to what water tables have happened. The family, however, is there. Everything seems to be fine. Everything is going fine. It's this beautiful old historic farm. One evening, there is an asteroid that rips through time and space and lands kerplunk in their garden. And of course, it is when they go out and find it, and they nothing seems to be working, and it's this eerie pinkish-ish light. Is a light that he's never actually seen anything like before, but it's this light. Meanwhile, lightning has struck this asteroid and it has disappeared. from that point, strange things begin to happen with the family. They start noticing flowers being growing out of the ground that were not there before. They start weird behavior. The wife, she ends up by cutting off her finger, and long story short, one of the boys ends up in the well. The other boy ends up in the attic, conjoined with the mother, because all of the creatures and animals have sort of morphed into this thing. And then the surveyor goes to try to save the family, but they have all gone basically insane from this color out of space. And so as much as he tries to get the girl, come with me, your family is gone, come with me, in her weird outer space way, she says, no, I belong here. I belong in this space. And so he fights off the father, who is at this point homicidal and is trying to feed the wife or kill this gentleman, whatever it may be. And in the end of it, all of the pink space rock flies up, and another piece falls back down into the well. And then he is left with this sort of post-apocalyptic ash. Everything is just gray. Of course, I left out one of the greatest parts in the entire story, and that is, oh goodness, I should have looked it up. I don't know if it's Cheech or Chong, but it's one of the two, and he was great. He actually played in the book. There was a caretaker that he actually plays. So he's this old hippie. Chong. It's Chong. He plays the old crazy caretaker who sort of acts as, well, this thing is happening. They're talking to us from under the ground. But it is, if you haven't seen it, you should see it. If you haven't read the original 1927 story, you should. It is a faithful adaptation, even though it is set now and not then. It is worth the watch. And that's not even giving, I'm not giving any critiques yet. No critiques.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And now that we completely understand the film, Scarlett's going, what?
I was like, did I write this? Wait.
I know. And this was one of his more detailed ones, really. Yeah.
No, you hit a lot of the points. Definitely.
I mean, sometimes I fell asleep 20 minutes into the movie. I tried to watch it 5 times and I couldn't get through it. So this is an honor, Scarlett. This is an honor.
You have no idea. Hexing is often going on by this point. True hexing. Yeah. So anyway, now we would normally go over to Heather for her slightly more academic and history of things, but we don't need Heather today because we don't have her. We have Scarlett. Scarlett, before we even get into, tell us a little bit how this happened for you. I mean,
yeah.
I don't even want to do my whole critique. I loved it. I'm sorry. I almost wish you weren't here so I can say, oh my God, this is the scariest movie we've ever done. We'll say as soon as we're done. But let's give it your story a little bit.
Well, it was really funny. So I was living in the south of France when we were first approached to do this story. And I had done a fairly successful modern adaptation of Mother of Toads, which is a Clark Ashton Smith story, and for Theatre Bizarre. And so the same producers and the financier were coming back from Cannes, and they came in. I was living in Montségur at the time, and they came and visited and said, "We want you guys to do Color Out of Space." And I was like, no, you don't want to. You don't want to do this. It's a novella, it's a short story. It's a color that's beyond human comprehension. Like, how are you going to show that? Like, how is that going to happen? But they were really insistent. And so we started to work on it and had a really good idea for all the characters. But it was like, how is this color going to work? Like, what is it going to do? Like, is it like the Borg? Is it like a virus? Like, what is it? And I was having a conversation with we were shooting this documentary at the time called The Other World, and I was having a conversation with Greene, who was the cinematographer, who's an incredible he's had an incredible career, and I was like, wait, what if the color works like a virus and it turns everyone into the worst possible version of themselves? Like, what does that look like? And then what if it destroys the family dynamic? What does that look like? And I was like, oh yeah, okay, this is fun. Like, we can do this. And yeah, and it just kind of grew from there. And I love that you guys brought up Tommy Chong, because that, he's so perfect in that role. And like, I saw an interview where he was going on, he's named Ezra, and he's just named after my stepbrother. Like, we needed a name off the fly, and I was like, oh, I just talked to Ezra, we'll use Ezra. But when I originally wrote it, it was supposed to be shot in the south of France. And so a lot of the characters were based off of people we knew. And so the Nicolas Cage, he was originally like one of our neighbors. And Ezra in there was like a combination of our friend Urani and of a surveyor who we knew that actually listened for the aliens under his floorboards in Bucharest. And so like, there's a lot of like little in jokes that are in the script. It's a fairly pathological script too, but I think that it's definitely not boring.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that, and I appreciate the fact that we got to have those conversations. Like, what's really scary? Like, if you're in a family, like if you're a son, your mother trying to ingest you back into her, that's scary. I mean, it's over the top and it's ridiculous, but there's something frightening. Somebody turning into a spider, becoming spider-like. Like, we're all afraid of spiders. Like, we're all afraid of arachnids. Giant arachnid? No, thank you. So it was really fun to kind of play with these things and to get to bring them to life.
That's amazing. I have to say, you did really good. I have not read, I probably should have, the Lovecraft original story, but we do these every week in movies, and so often, high budget, low budget, everywhere in the middle, good, bad, everywhere in the middle. This was, for me, and not because you're my friend or not because you're here. Absolutely not. One of the most enthralling, engrossing. I cared about I'm a Nick Cage fan, by the way.
Yeah.
I love Nicolas Cage, and seeing him in this kind of role and going from where he went to where he went. And we'll talk about the witchcraft and all that kind of stuff too. That's obvious to me. A witch was the writer on this. Sometimes not on films. But I cared about the characters. I got mad at them. I loved them. I worried about them. All this stuff that I do not always do on all the films that we watch. And best of all, I was scared to death the entire time. You hit that in everything. I was like, what could be more scary? Oh my God, is he going to fall in the well? Oh my God, what happened to the alpacas? Oh my God, everything. And then all the little things going through my head is like, okay, well, she did this, and we'll talk about she did this. She did this necromancy. She did this thing about to protect her. Okay, now she's last at the end. It's like, oh my God, I'm writing it in my head. So this was the funnest 2 hours or whatever length it is that I've had in a long, long time, I must say.
It was fantastic. I love hearing that. Thank you.
Yes. I don't know. Richard-Lael, what do you think?
I have to say this. I'm normally one to love period pieces. And the original piece is set in the 1880s, and then it takes place in the very modern contemporary time of 1927. However, I firmly
froze. He froze.
He's very firm on the screen right now, just like stone.
Oh wow, magic is afoot.
Yes, I'm not sure what his question was going to be.
He's still frozen. Oh no. I guess the color has got him.
No, I'm back.
Okay.
Okay. Firmly froze.
I firmly believe in historic historic films. However, I think that it works better set in the current time as it would have 100 years ago. Now, 100 years ago, it would have worked then too, but I like the fact that it is now, because now there is sort of that connection to this family being out in the woods, and they have the well water. I grew up in the wood a long way from town with a well, and so I understand that my parents thought that it was better water, and we didn't have to fetch it with a pail at a pump, but every winter we would have to go out to the well house and put a heat lamp on the pipes. So I firmly understood the family. I understood the family dynamic. I enjoyed the fact that the daughter was a daughter and not a son, because it connected more the surveyor. It brought him more into the story than what the original was. So it was beautifully filmed. It was frightfully delightful. It was not at all a boring story. There was not a moment where I fell asleep like I had on so many other ones. This was a really good film. I have to say it was beautiful, and the setting before all of the asteroids fell, the setting was beautiful, and unlike the little girl, I would never have wanted to have left. I mean, I did when I was her age. I did want to leave when I was her age, but as an adult, I would never want to leave.
You just call. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say, I think it was filmed in outside of Sintra in Portugal. So
Really?
yeah,
Portugal.
yeah, this is a beautiful old farmhouse.
Richard-Lael said little girl for the young woman character, but I could never tell how old she was. Was she supposed to be 16? Was she on college break? Was she secretly 24? Was the surveyor figure going to end up in jail by the way that she was checking him out? I had serious questions in my brain.
Yeah, there are, the script had gone through so many different iterations, and there was a thing where she was getting ready to go to college, and like her mom was hiding the college acceptance letters from her, and so she's trying to break away from the family and trying to get some autonomy, and becoming kind of, realizing her sexuality. And so she is flirting with the surveyor. It doesn't necessarily mean anything. It's just like her trying to move away from that dynamic and become a little bit more her own person. But that got lost, like once you've done however many different versions of the script, some of those original ideas get lost. And I know that in what was filmed, they made her a little more on the younger side, as opposed to on her way, out the door to college, which I think ultimately it works, and yeah, she's definitely flirting with Ward, but she's also like bored on this farm all by her, with her family.
Absolutely. You can get the boredom, but also at the same time, it's like, hello, I'm a witch, and I'm out here doing a ritual and doing these things, and I am going to ride away on my horse, which is probably a fantasy most witches have had in their entire life, and she's bored of it. I mean, if you'd been doing that for 2 years, yes, you would get bored of it. But all I could think of was like wish fulfillment. That was my first thought.
Well, also, I grew up riding, and I was a professional dressage rider for years, and so Lavinia is really based on me, and so that was kind of like a no-brainer to give her the horse. That made things very easy for me.
That's good. Yeah, I loved it. Yeah, to me, every 16-year-old girl dreamed the horse, the magic,
My parents not only lived on we were a mile and a half from a little small town, which had a population of maybe 100. So it was a mile from town. And then we were 15 miles from the nearest like big town of maybe 3,000 or 4,000 people. I mean, it was rural. but my parents did have horses, and I would go ride the horses, and I would go out in the wood and naked, 15, 16 years old. And I would howl at the moon, and I would do my little rituals that, maybe or maybe not were witchcraft. I don't know, but I did definitely identify with Lavinia. I 100% did. And I tell you, when I was 15, 16, 17, 18, I remember saying, I don't care if I never see another tree. I'm going to move to the city. I don't want to see, I just want to see, I want to be where the people are.
Like Cinda song. Yeah, I didn't have an age issue with her at all. She seemed to be, she's 16, perfect 16. That's
16 going on 17.
Yeah.
Getting ready to run over some hills.
On
I was just thinking about the horse thing, though. The closest I ever got to riding a horse as a child, and except for once on vacation where my father took me to ride a horse, was I was 4, and I climbed on the back of my neighbor's dog, thinking the dog might let me ride it. And the dog, of course, lightly bit me on the arm. The dog's name was Pretzel, if you needed to know. That was as close as my suburban life got to anything farm related.
Okay, so Jason, while you're up, don't be shy. She's a lovely, confident, good sense of humor woman.
Oh yes, I'm sure it'll be fine. She hasn't threatened to hex me yet. I mean, we're 21 minutes through the show, and no one has threatened to hex me. I mean, that is a step forward for me. No, I like the movie. I will say, though, while I'm watching it as a colorblind person, the color was pretty hard for me to look at. It was like just sort of watching the fog.
Yeah.
Right? Because it comes up, and it's an important part of the film, and it probably doesn't look exactly, I'm not picturing it the way that the screenwriter would want it pictured. But I have a question about all that, because you're a screenwriter, and I think it's so cool. I'm watching that last scene, and it's sort of very psychedelic and trippy. How do you write that? How do you convey those images to a director to film?
So are you talking about when they go into the alien world? When they see through its eyes? Yeah, I mean, there's been quite a few different Lovecraft adaptations that kind of describe that, where it's got the triangles and the this and the that, what that world looks like. And I think they did a really good job of showing that. And then, it's distorting space and time, and it's distorting everything. So Lavinia is really she becomes the messenger of it. She's kind of the vessel that it's speaking through, and it ultimately, explodes upon itself. But where did that come from? I don't know. You're just going through it, and it had 2 or 3 different endings, and but we always knew we always knew who was going to survive. It was just, and we had a good idea. We knew somebody was going to go in the well. We knew somebody was going to get ingested. We had a good idea of the different things that were going to happen to the family, and then as you're writing it, those pieces kind of come together. But sometimes that's just in the moment of writing it where you go, oh my gosh, she's she's the vessel for this. We're gonna go through her eyes, and we're gonna see what this world actually looks like. And I really love that part. I think that is particularly strong, and then come back out of it, and it's gonna all explode through her. And they did a really interesting thing where I'm trying to remember the artist, because there's a picture, and it's not Lavinia, but it's a color out of space where the color's coming out of the well, and it's coming out of the person standing next to the well. And it's a fairly well-known, it was back in the Weird Tales times. And they did a really good job of kind of recreating that. It's a very subtle nod to that. And it helps keep it true to the story.
I was really hoping Lavinia would stay alive. I mean, I was watching the movie, and I was like, well, there's no way that they're going to kill her. She's really the star of the movie, because it feels like it all kind of really runs through her in a lot of ways. And I was like, they're not going to kill her. And then you tore my heart out.
But I think I think you had to, though, because if the original story is your basis, he is in 1927 experimenting. He's sort of seeing what has happened in 1877. So they're already dead by this point. And in the original story, the surveyor comes and he finds that all of the trees have grown monstrously tall, all of the fruits and vegetables have grown, but they all have that sour taste.
Yeah.
And so they're already dead. And so the animals that have survived and wandered on, they're all grotesque as well. And there is a fellow who is a farmhand who lives down the road in the original story that is Chong. It's the same character. So I think the family had to die. I think they all had to go away if you're going to be true to Lovecraft. And I also think that I like the fact that they died, because it is unexpected. If you are going along and you think, oh, he's the hero and he's going to save her, and then it's going to be 50 years later and she's going to write her memoirs. Nope, she's dead, because it's Lovecraft. It's just
Yeah,
I will admit, yeah, I like having my expectations, like being surprised by things. I like it when a movie does not live up to my expectations. So watching her dies is satisfying in a way, but I just liked her because the actress was on The Magicians, which is one of my favorite shows, and I don't want anyone from that show to ever be harmed. It's really important to me.
Yeah, she was great. She was so good in it. But like Lovecraft as a writer was he was brilliant, but he was also incredibly cold, and like the cosmic horror is cold. There's a real alien coldness to it. So, of course no one's going to survive. Like that's just kind of part and parcel with Lovecraft's universe. He was a man who had numerous phobias and would spend some time in a mental institution, and he was a genius, but he's a terrifyingly cold genius. And that really comes across in his stories. Like there are no happy endings, not in his universe.
That's amazing.
But usually adaptations aren't as faithful, right? Because they're never faithful. I mean, based on a true story, like, yeah, whatever, based on like 2 sentences of a 500-page book, kind of based on a true story.
I think that depends on how good you are as a writer. I mean, and how well you know the material. Like I just finished a modern adaptation of Ancient Sorceries by Algernon Blackwood, but I love Blackwood and I know his material inside and out, and I know his life, and I know all the stuff that he read. And so this was all in my mind when I was writing this, and it's another modern adaptation, but it's still very in the vein of what he was doing. And I think if you're a clever writer, you just don't go, oh, this is cool, I'm going to make it mine. Like you have to really dive in and understand these people and understand the time and understand what their influences were and understand their body of work before you can take something of theirs and then put your stamp on it.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Okay, I want to go back to relationships. How much, I did not read the original story. So how much your relationships were amazing. The family dynamics, the father, the mother, the cancer, the daughter, the little guy, the big boy, everybody. How much was your guys' creation?
All of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All of it. A lot of that, I really love like Lavinia and her brothers and the way that they're just sassy with each other and the way they get to talk to each other like teenagers do. And, like that, it was fun to be able to do that. It really was. I didn't like how harsh the mother was. I was always fighting against that because she's the one character that I wish had been treated a little bit differently. She's always so shrill. And I was like, but I got outvoted on that. So there you go. Like that happens. But, I think it's fun because we see them as the family unit and they're lovely in their way. But then, they get to be, very 2-dimensional. They get to be this great mixture of like sweet and bad, which those are great characters. Those are memorable characters. And so that it was really fun to be able to do that. And that script and that story really gave us the space to do so.
That's beautiful. And again, I agree. I would have liked Mom to have a softer edge to it, but I have known people with long-term cancers and illnesses. They're not so warm inside. They are over it. And I think she played it perfectly to somebody. You don't feel good. You're sick. You don't have any energy. You got a weird husband. You got kids being typical kids. You're out on this farm. I think I might be
trying to make money on the computer in the attic.
Yeah, and I mean, in all honesty, like it was probably a little bit based on me because we were living in a very tiny mountain village, in the Pyrenees, and with a satellite dish for internet, which it would get knocked off all the time. I have to get up on the ladder and like reposition the thing, and so I had to have email to make money. So yeah, but I don't think I was ever quite that hysterical.
So all the internet interference was like based on like true to life things that you had to go through.
Oh, very much so. Yeah, there's quite, like I said, the script is kind of pathological in its own way. There's a lot of things that are based on neighbors, a lot of things that were going on in our lives, and based on people that we know.
I have to tell you, there were 2 points in the film that I was more scared than any other point. Yes, yes, that's scary. Yes, the mother spider. None of that bothered me. The 2 points that bothered me was when Lavinia is doing her spell and she's doing with her knife and I was doing this the entire time. And the second was when the mother was chopping the carrots and then she sliced her fingers and I went, oh, no. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Even before she sliced her fingers, I was like, she's gonna. I don't chop well. That was true.
I have a funny story about chopping my finger, though.
Okay.
As an aside, many years ago, when I was living in Los Angeles, I was on Hotel Secrets and Mysteries, where I played Chef Victor Hertzler, who was this world-renowned French chef, and I was supposed to be pompous and arrogant, and I had this little curly mustache, and I'm supposed to go into the kitchen and sort of cast everyone out. Get out of the kitchen! You are only playing! You are playing! What are you doing? You are playing! And so I go to chop things, and I don't cook. I make tea. That's the only thing I do, and I'm chopping it, and I just cut the end of my finger. It wasn't a major one. It was just enough to, and I went, they kept it in the shot. They kept it in. You can't tell. It's not like it wasn't. Mm-mm. So when she was doing that was the worst part for me.
Yeah, I think the idea from that came from a movie called, I think it's Science Sono. I think it's called The Suicide Club. And, but I think they show it up to the point and then she doesn't actually do the fingers. And then, yeah, they went for it. They did it here. I was like, wow, it was written in the script, like that was going to happen. But yeah. Yeah. And then are you talking about when Lavinia carves the protection rune?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. That's gross.
I was scared the most though when the father turns on the kids and he's saying mean things to them. As someone who adores his father, I think my father's only said a mean thing to me once, and it's burned into my brain forever. Like, to me, like, disappointing my dad or upsetting my dad was always the worst thing I could ever do. So those moments where Nicolas Cage is the first to really go crazy and to like really be mean to the people around him, that bothered me the most. I find that sort of horror when somebody you love changes really, really scary because it hits home.
Yeah, and that's, I think, that was really, really trying to be in the script, where we were trying to break down the family dynamic. How do you do that? What happens when the person that you rely on and the person that you love suddenly snaps? and becomes something different and something you can't trust. Like, that's the worst thing in the world. And Nicolas Cage did a brilliant job of it. He really, really did. Such a good actor. He's amazing.
He is amazing. And the alpacas. I mean, they were such a plot point to me. It was like, yeah, alpacas. It's the alpacas. And then there's cooked. It's like,
do you want to know how that came to be? It's like the most ridiculous thing. So, when I used to drive down the mountain, there was this like that's not a resort. It's like where, well, there was like a Dutch cult there that worshiped this giant crystal. And they had these little goats, and they would like use the goats to sell like socks and goat milk and this and that. And these little goats would all be out in the field, and they're all very cute but weird looking. They're always standing in each other in these really irregular like triangles. And I would be like, ah ha ha, that's Euclidean geometry. Ah ha ha, they're so Lovecraftian. And then when we were writing the script, I was like, wow, we need something like those animals. And years ago, when I was going to school in Chicago, I had gone to this, it was like where all the restaurants come in and all the chefs come in. And it's like a big, like they all meet and they all talk about their stuff, and there's vendors everywhere. And I made friends with Pete from Pete's Wicked Ale. And we went down and we were trying all the weird like rattlesnake meat, and then they had alpacas and it said meat of the future. And for whatever reason that stuck in my head. So when I was writing the script, I was like, oh my God, it's going to be alpacas because they're the meat of the future.
and
it was that random. And so then I went on YouTube and I started Googling alpaca videos, and they're hilarious because alpacas only have teeth in the front and not in the sides. So they can't chew it very well. So there's all these videos of people giving them like apples, and they're just spitting it all over the place. They're the most hilarious creatures. And I was like, oh my God, it has to be alpacas. It has to be.
That was fabulous. I love that. Let's talk about the witchcraft.
Sure.
I love open. So how did that, was that all your creation? And how?
Actually, I had written a more Wiccan kind of anodyne beginning, because I felt like she's, 16, 17, like out in the middle of nowhere. She's not going to be calling on the principalities. But they decided that it would, like to make it more witchcraft. And I had written a little bit more of an anodyne, like calling the quarters and just a little more Wiccan-y. But you know what? I'm totally fine with that. That exact ritual was not of my creation, but it started as my creation.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I liked it.
There's also an odd line in there like right after she does the ritual and she meets our dashing hero who survives till the very end, and he says Wiccan or Alexandrian, which that's obviously not you, but it's such a weird turn of phrase. It's like it suggests I know what I'm talking about, and yet I don't know what I'm talking about.
That was not, that was put in after the fact. And it really, I mean, they should, if you're going to use a line like that, say Gardnerian or Alexandrian. Yeah, I mean, come on. And
though her being dressed would have like gotten rid of the Gardnerian thing pretty fast.
Yeah. Although I think she was sky-clad in like one of the original drafts, but like it was much more ambiguous. And so, but yeah, no, I agree. When every time I hear that, I'm always like, I didn't write that. That wasn't me. And I've actually had people write to me and be like, why would you do that? And I'm like, I didn't.
But as we know, John Public doesn't, I mean, all the witches watching the movie will go, but everybody else, what? Yeah.
Was the hair burning a part of your original ritual?
Yes.
Okay. Because that made sense, because I looked at that and I felt like, oh, this is actually like watching a witch do a ritual. And so many times you watch things get close to how a witch does a ritual, and then there's that turn at the end where it becomes something else.
Yeah, no, it was the same ritual. I just had her like more like calling the quarters, and she wasn't calling the principalities. Like they changed the wording, but it's the same ritual.
Yeah,
if that makes sense. But yeah, everything in it is the same.
It was beautiful, I must say. The ritual was beautiful. This beautiful young girl is beautiful. The horse is beautiful. The woods were beautiful. Everything, the whole cinematography, everything was just pretty.
And I can understand too the ritual of trying to burn out the cancer. Even if she was not trained as a witch, she's basically grasping at straws to bring her mother back, because I think that her mother was not always so rigid and stiff, but I think she was so tired and afraid. Well, if you go away, I might die, and then what's going to happen? I won't have you near me, and it'll be the end. So I kind of understand the girl, the woman, trying to burn the cancer out of her mom.
Yeah,
but at the same time, she's doing that, but she's also like kind of willing herself out of there. You know what I'm saying? So that she can get away from them. Like she's trying to become more of that person, and she's you can see her boredom and what do you do when you're a bored witch by yourself on a farm?
and a young girl.
I have a question about the film as a whole, since it's based on an H.P. Lovecraft story, and our heroine has a copy of the Necronomicon. Is that supposed to be like Lovecraft's original Necronomicon and not the Simon paperback version that we're all used to? Is it supposed to be something that really has power and is based on the old ones and all that?
Well, yeah. How many iterations are there of the Necronomicon? I don't even know anymore. Like, there's so many of them. But even we know the Simon is a hoax. Right. But at the same time, if you look at the principles of magic and you look at some of the stuff that's in there, it's not entirely wrong.
No, there's real magic in that book.
Exactly.
There's Babylonian and Sumerian stuff.
Exactly. And so who's to say, that in the right hands isn't potent? And so is it, the Necronomicon is I love this because it's something that is made up in Lovecraft's head that's taken on a life of its own. It exists now. It has, its own principality now. It has its own power now. Like it's taken on its own life. Is it supposed to be based on his original Necronomicon? I think it's just a Necronomicon. I think, it's become its own entity, which I very much appreciate. It's like its own tulpa.
My thought just goes is there like this bigger Lovecraftian universe out there where the Necronomicon is something different than the Necronomicon we experience, I don't know. I wrestle with weird questions while I watch films.
No, I like this, but I think what it's a conceit that Lovecraft came up with, and I think that it's birthed itself into existence in a way that he could never have imagined, and in a bigger way than he could have ever imagined. Would he look at it and see the magic in it and be like, no, that's not what I meant? I don't know, but the Necronomicon is definitely a very interesting subject.
There's a question here from the beautiful Mary Jane King. I thought I saw the film had a witch advisor. Did it have a witch advisor? And was it you?
That was Richard's girlfriend at the time. So Amanda. I don't know what her role was, and I don't really know. I think she put a couple of the books in there that are in Lavinia's room when she cuts herself, but I don't know what she did exactly to get that title because all of that stuff was already in the script.
Girlfriend.
That's not for me to say.
What she did not do was differentiate Alexandrian and Wicca. That she did not do.
I don't know, and that's not for me to say either.
All right. Well, anybody out who hasn't watched it yet, we haven't voted yet, but You got to see this one, you guys. We do. I don't. We do not. Courtney is supposed to give us quotes right now, but we don't have any. Do you have? Did anybody have any quotes?
She's
I
not
think
here.
Richard-Lael has quotes.
I have some. I have some that I really enjoyed.
Okay.
There is. This is sort of a. This is a snippet from. This is one of my favorite scenes. Ward, what exactly am I supposed to be listening to? Ezra, the people under the floor, dude. The aliens. They're there. Well, yeah, it's strange, but it's probably geothermal activity or magnetic distortions. No. Something like that. They came from the rock. Look, no offense, Ezra, but that's pretty out there. You don't get it, do you? It's not out there. It's in here. It's in the static. It's in the moisture. Up is down, fast is slow. What's in here is out there, and what's out there is in here now. Comprehendo? Look, why don't you think about getting out of here for a while? I'm going to be back tomorrow. I have some more equipment with me. I'm sure it'll make more sense in the morning. Morning? Dude, it's already morning.
That was beautiful. I love Tommy Chong's scenes. I love his character, his house, his everything.
Yeah,
good.
It was based on our friend Urani, who lived under the plateau in Rennes-le-Château, and he actually lived rough and was a sorcerer. He was the sorcerer of the Rousseau de Couleur, who had built his own house and had a dirt floor and lived there. And like, I studied magic with Urani for years, and he like taught me all the plants and all the magic of the land. Like, he was absolutely a true magician who lived the magician's life in a way that I don't think any of us could, and died the magician's death. And so the reason that Tommy Chong has like the makeup on is because he's got Urani's makeup. Urani was in a documentary that we did called The Other World, called L'Autre Monde. And so that's Urani's makeup. But I have to say, like, I wrote part of that, what's in here, what's out there is in here, and what's in here is out there. And to see, but I didn't write the comprendo, like there's like a whole bunch of little things that Tommy Chong put on there that are just so wonderful. Like, it's amazing. It's amazing to see. Like, I love that scene. It's so great.
That was great. Any more quotes?
Yeah, I think I've got a couple more. Let's see.
Okay.
Nathan, the color is so bright. It's like flowers. There was a really funny one, but I'm not going to say it because I'm not going to say it.
No, say it. Say it.
Well,
Go ahead.
Let's see. Ezra, recording. Nothing, cold and wet, but it burns, sucking the life out of everything. It came down in the rock. It lives in the well. It grew down there, poisoning everything, changing everything into something like the world it came from, into what it knows. We all know it's coming, but we can't get away. It's got everything that lives. They all drunk the water. It got strong, fed itself on them. It came from the stars, where things ain't like they are here. It's just a color, but it burns. It sucks, and it burns. And it burns.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and I love the way that they did that on the tape, and they distorted it, because it was like, we knew that Ezra was the one, as they call them in French marginals, like living on the land. Like, he was the one that knew what was going on. He was the first to guess that everyone had become infected. And so I love the way that they did that with the distortion on the tape, and it's potent.
It's very potent, and makes you want to drink bottled water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we are getting close to the end. Mr. Mankey, do we have a Mankey movie moment?
We do, but I also have one quote while I was watching the movie.
Okay.
Nicolas Cage just goes, "They are alpacas. Alpacas." And I don't know why, but I stopped it and rewound that and watched it 3 times just because of the way he said alpacas, which I just really enjoyed. So there's that.
Everything
Okay.
I loved. Okay.
Oh, I mean, I do have something, but at the same time, I don't understand while I'm still doing this segment with the screenwriter in front of us in a little box completely in front of
go
me.
ahead.
That's crazy. It's like my best friend giving one of my books a 1-star review and writing that 1-star review on Amazon right in front of me while laughing maniacally. Also, Scarlett is super cool and cooler than I will ever be, which makes this endeavor even worse. And, all I can think of is I will look like a jealous ass. And, he's the one making fun of the cool kids in his weird little shrill voice. This is the first time I've ever wished for a bone bruise. I love you, Courtney, or Pagan Con Crud. Love you, Heather, in the run up to one of our shows so I could bow out. As I told Scarlett in our green room, which has really great hors d'oeuvres, by the way, that this is just a bit and it shouldn't be taken seriously. And she goes, "It's fine, Jason. It's really okay." Okay, so here we go. Everything begins promisingly enough. There's a young witch outside performing a spell that mostly looks like witchcraft, which is a rarity in and of itself. And then it all goes completely downhill. Our young witch is interrupted by an insanely handsome hydrologist, which I didn't even know was a job, who asks her Wiccan or Alexandrian. That's the equivalent of asking Christian or Methodist. Things get stranger fast as we don't know the age of our young witch, and she clearly has the hots for our hydrologist, whatever that is. Will our hydrologist end up in jail? Is the witch's age ever mentioned? She lives with her parents, but perhaps she's just home for summer vacation, and she's 21, and these two kids can live happily ever after. I don't know, but I was worried. And I will admit that perhaps it was mentioned in the movie that we found out during our conversation tonight. It was not, but I did have my iPad next to me keeping up with Olympic basketball this afternoon while I was watching the movie because I'm a very broken person who had to do that. Anyways, the hydrologist. I'm obsessed with the hydrologist, who is the linchpin of the entire film. He is the only person in the rural backwater this movie takes place in with expertise in anything. Because in addition to being a hydrologist, he is also an expert on meteorites, a world-class camper, a child psychologist, a sheriff's deputy, and perhaps most importantly, like Beyonce and Destiny's Child, he's a survivor. It's crazy in a movie that has Nicolas Cage giving a very Nicolas Cage-like performance. Nicolas Cage stars as the best Nicolas Cage. Deranged Nicolas Cage. But all I can think about the whole movie is the hydrologist. And this movie has more than just Nicolas Cage that I should love because it has the Necronomicon in it. And I hate the Necronomicon and I love making jokes about it. But I have questions about the hydrologist knew that the Alexandrian tradition was somehow related to Wicca. The Alexandrian tradition is a Wiccan tradition. Did he minor in the occult? What kind of training goes on to make one a hydrologist? You all understand why I am so perplexed, right? I mean, these are serious questions. Also, the bad guy in this film is the color, which is difficult for a person who is colorblind. To me, it was just fog. Really bright LSD enhanced fog. And that is tonight's Movie Minute.
All right, that was awesome. That was fantastic.
Beautiful. That was beautiful. Okay. Oh, the colors are back. I didn't know you were colorblind.
Not completely, but enough that it's annoying. And my stepmother used to yell at me for my clothes not matching.
Okay. So I see in the chat room, our next week, we're going to vote on this one. Our next week movie is Drag Me to Hell. Drag Me to Hell. So we all have our homework for next week.
I am so excited. I'm going to tell you a little bit about next week. I'm so excited because, I watch RuPaul's Drag Race and I love drag queens. So it's going to be fun. I'm sure. I'm absolutely certain.
Thank you, Ezra. All right.
Now I have lots of questions about next week's film before we watch it. I'm more excited. I'm more excited now than I was 2 hours ago for this new movie.
I don't remember any drag queens, but I could be wrong. All right. Grab your wands, everybody. And all of you in the chat room. Wands up. Wands down. The color of space.
We're all up.
Up. It's rare we all get them up, but this is a screw up. There, Scarlett's got hers. You can vote for your own movie.
I can vote for myself, right?
Yes. Whatever side you. I know. I always go. I want this side up today, but this is up. Wand high up from Robert Hicks. Wands and horns up from Kevin. Wand high up. Everybody else, did you guys vote? Scared and alone. Wands up. Wands up, Mary Jane. Wands neutral, didn't get to see it. Well, then you have to watch it and tell us next week. Wand up for Tabitha. So this might be a unanimous. So if you didn't see it, you got to see it. It's easy to find online and well worth the search.
It's on. I think it's on Shudder. I believe
It's on Shudder.
Yeah.
Is it as good as The Killing Tree? Is anything as good as The Killing Tree?
Courtney's not here. Oh.
Wait, what's The Killing Tree?
Oh, it's terrible.
It's Courtney's favorite movie.
The Winnie the Pooh slasher film. It's this director, and he made a movie about a killing Christmas tree.
The worst film you've ever seen.
Yeah,
I've seen some pretty bad films. I mean, you'd be
It's the
amazed.
worst film you've ever seen.
Okay.
Raven's up. Hi, Raven. Matt, is Matt still there? Did we lose Matthew? Captain, I'll watch it tomorrow. Okay, she'll watch it tomorrow. All right, we have a couple minutes left. Anybody have anything coming up that they want to talk about? Scarlett, we'll start with you, our special guest. If people want to go, I want to know this beautiful screenwriter, Hollywood gal, how could they find you? Website, social media?
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm on Facebook and Instagram. That's usually like easiest way. I have Twitter, but I don't use it I'm not very good with it, so I don't use it very often. Instagram's probably best. If they want to find me, I just directed a music video. Speaking of witchcraft, that it just got accepted to its first film festival, which is awesome. So that
they could see that and what it is.
That's it's called Nail Me Down by Scarlett Seraphim, and it's on YouTube. And yeah, it's done shockingly well. And then I've got a script out over in France, and then I have a huge television series that is out right now too. So that's been taking up most of my time.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yay, thank you. Jason. You're muted. Can't hear you.
I have nothing coming up until October. However, if you want to know more about the history of the Necronomicon, you can read more about it in the Witch's Book of Shadows, which has a different color. This is cover. This is the original, and it looks less cartoony. But that's it. I've got nothing.
Thank you.
Buy the book.
Thank you. Richard-Lael.
I teach at University Magicus, usually on the weekend. You can find it at universitymagicus.org, I think.
Magicu.org or universitymagicus.com.
Yes, that. Patti is, of course, a teacher there. It is her school. I'm here in New Orleans. I do readings also. thegentlemanpsychic.com. You can message me. Instagram is always the best. Also, I did the foreword for the Devil at the Crossroads, which is coming out, and I am so excited for that.
By Kate Fruhler. It's a great book.
That's it.
That's it. Thank you. All right.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Anybody in Southern California and Free Friday night, I am doing a hot summer seance at the main theater in Newhall, Santa Clarita. That's by Magic Mountain. For anybody who doesn't know where it is, it's a cool, intimate theater. It's just me. I'm headlining. Put on by the Earthly People Foundation, I think. Next week, I will be in New Orleans at Hex Fest. The next week after that, I will be in Buffalo, New York on a fundraiser for Daniel Klass's family. The next week, I'm going to be in Michigan at Michigan Paracon. So pattinegri.com. Follow all of us on social media. Like us, say hi. And I have a new book coming out.
Oh, wow.
I now am a Llewellyn author, I am proud to say. out
Woo,
next
welcome
year.
to the family.
A witchy perspective on haunted dolls and how to do and make magical puppets. So yeah, they just showed me that's the new final cover. I'm so thrilled. And it's been driving me crazy, but everything's been driving me crazy. It's just a crazy week. It's the colors. I'm just gonna say it's the colors. We all need to get the colors.
Also,
Anyway, so
happy Lammas, happy Lunasa,
oh,
like Sabbath
happy,
time.
happy Lammas for everybody.
Yeah. Woo! Thank you for spending your Sabbath time with us.
Yes, indeed. Now go do some magic. Oh, wait, this is magic. Oh, wait. Watch out for the colors. Next week, drag me to hell. Tell your friends, come and join us, and see you next week. We have one more thing to do. We cackle. It's ridiculous. 1, 2, 3.